Good afternoon and welcome to the Days of Learning Back to the podcast, the Back to the Kitchen series. My name is David Nelson and I am joined by my good friend and colleague, Dr. Yvonne Greer. Hello, Yvonne.
Hi, David.
It's so good to be with you. How is it our last episode already?
I don't know. It just seems so different to have it done. Now, this is our 12th program, and it has been a joy and a pleasure. So sometimes I look at the old videos, just like they're my old movies, and enjoy hearing the presentations all over again from our community champions. So, yeah, bittersweet, but yeah, I'm glad that we have things like YouTube so that we can go back and reminisce, and also people can still see those videos with the cooking skills.
You know, I'm going to say, though it's our 12th, and I think this is our 52nd or 53rd podcast recording, we've been consistent in our enthusiasm to do work with the community to make a nutrition that is not only accessible to all people at all income levels, but to make it fun. You know, we've had some really fun times on the show.
Yes, we have. And had some people taking things out of their cupboards and, showcasing different things. And, the vision for it was to really have a show that showcased the wealth of information that is being, and health promotion that is being given out in the community, so that it dispels myths, but also gives life-saving information. And that's kind of where this year's theme was to be, is that, we've talked about it. Now it's about action. It's about taking action for your health. It's about putting those tips into practice in your own personal health plan. So that's where we're at today. And I'm happy to get started, but I do want to give a shout out. Are you ready for me to give that shout out?
Oh, shout it out loud and proud.
Well, when I started thinking about this theme particularly, I thought about one of our guests that has been on, Ms. Carolyn Carter, our raw food chef. And I wanted to give a shout out and dedicate this program to her, because she's made a mantra of one saying, and it's get it in, get it in, get it in. As she drinks her green smoothie down. And it was kind of like the inspiration that my sister had for developing her daily smoothie, which is going to be showcased in this show. So we can talk a lot about the life-saving and life-supporting nutrients that we're getting out of our foods, the vitamins, the minerals, the proteins, the fiber, the phytochemicals. I know people may not think of what is phytochemicals, but I've talked about them. So eating the rainbow of colors from your fruits and vegetables, the fiber and water and all of those good things that we're getting out of can get out of our food, that's going to give us the energy that we need, that's going to help us with our brain function, that's going to help us with our digestion, our blood pressure control, looking at our healthy immune system to fight off these germs, and also looking at creating healthy hearts and healthy kidneys, and making sure our pancreas and things are healthy so we can not have diabetes. But we can talk about all these things, but all these foods are not going to do us any good unless we get them in. So that's one of the things that I'm really looking at. So for today's question of the day, it's, what nutrient-dense foods have you fed your body lately? And a lot of times, we say, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But again, it's what you get in that counts. Your knowledge is okay, but if you don't get it in, not going to do you any good.
I love that saying, Yvonne, and I love Miss Carolyn. She has been a long-standing friend of both of ours for many years, and I love her videos, not only around the idea of raw foods and getting it in, but she's also been a champion for exercise and getting it in. And I actually thought when I was getting my own exercise in this morning, I actually went for a run on, it was a cool day, but I went for a run and then I had, I had 3 of my different colored fruits and vegetables already. And it is get it in. And that's the way we can support health of our community. Yvonne, before we you had the question of the day about the nutrient dense foods, but tell us what the title of today's session is all about.
Well, today's session, I didn't write it down in front of me. So,
can I help? Do you mind if I
yeah,
help?
go ahead on and help.
All right. I love this title. It's we've been talking about it so long. Re-energize your personal health, working life into your prevention plan. And it is Hypertension Awareness Month. And I'm so glad that our 2 champions will be talking about not only getting it in, but how to get re-energized.
Right. And when I say working life into it, because a lot of times we don't realize that, it's not just eating nutritious foods, it's actually sustaining your life, prolonging your life, feeding your body and giving your body the life supporting nutrients that you need. And so a lot of times we talk about my health plan, but we want you to now get re-energized and start that plan and make sure that you're going out and getting those things. And summer's coming up, it's going to be, oh wow, you can get out to the farmers markets, you can do some planning yourself. So there's going to be so many ways that you can get it in at this time.
And it's both fun, it's good for you, and it's a good way to connect with your community as well as connecting with your neighbors and your other family members. So I've already gotten some of my crops in the ground, and so I'm so excited to have them coming up. Yvonne, tell us about our video for today, our Back to the Kitchen video.
Well, our Back to the Kitchen video is definitely featuring my sister Rita's morning green smoothie that she has on a regular basis. I talk to her, but also I have added in some other nutrients if you want to just boost that up a little bit more and have more protein. So different protein sources. With some of the different smoothies, I always tell you, you have to figure out what's really good for you, what you like, and put the things in that you like. But there's some basic kind of ingredients that will help you. So that's what the smoothie is about today. One thing I did want to make sure, because we talked about it and we said, what nutrient dense foods are you having? I want to be on the same page. So nutrient dense. If you haven't heard about what that is, it's meaning that you're going to have foods that have a high and significant amount of nutrients in there that's going to feed your body versus empty calorie or calorie dense foods that has very little nutrition in there. So we have, some things that kind of feed the taste bud, but it's not really feeding our body. And so we want you to kind of start thinking about what are those kind of foods. Sometimes people call them superfoods. They have different names for them, but nutrient foods. Many of them, the fruits and vegetables in that line, but nuts, seeds are so healthy for you. And we don't always eat enough nuts to get our magnesium and our fiber and our healthy oils in. And so we're going to be showcasing those types of nutrient dense foods so that people start thinking of, okay, putting foods in the category. Is this food that's just good for my taste buds and I'll have them only occasionally, or are these foods that I need to work more of them into my diet on a regular basis? Not that they're not going to be too good for your taste buds, because I contend the nutrient dense healthy foods can be nutritious. What's my motto? Nutritious and delicious.
Mm-hmm.
So that you don't have to give a flavor to eat nutrient dense food. You just have to know which category of foods am I eating right now, which ones should I eat more of, and get those in more into your diet.
That's fantastic. Well, I know that Kelsey has queued up the video. Let's cue the video, Miss Kelsey.
Hello and welcome back to the kitchen season 3. I'm Dr. Yvonne Greer, registered dietitian and owner of Why Eat Right, nutritional consultant and healthy living coach. This program is being brought to you by MCOP, the Milwaukee County Organizations Promoting Prevention and the Medical College of Wisconsin, in partnership with the state of Wisconsin's Chronic Disease Prevention Program through funding from the CDC 1815 grant. For my final recipe of the season, I will be showcasing a recipe from my sister's kitchen, Rita's Green Breakfast Smoothie. Having a smoothie made with fresh greens, fruits, and a few additional ingredients to boost its nutritional value is a great way to get in that energy punch to start your day. So let's review the basic recipe and those few additional items that can be added. First, the basic ingredients calls for fresh kale, spinach, banana, your ginger root, strawberries, and one of my favorites, kiwi fruit, and then the flaxseed, which needs to be ground. For additional protein, we have your ground almonds and your walnuts. Both also add magnesium and also fiber. But also you can add in a whey protein powder, or you can use the Carnation Instant Breakfast. Remember though that both the whey and the Carnation Instant Breakfast are milk products. The most economical one of these would be your Carnation Instant Breakfast, $4.99 for 10 servings. Both have about 13 grams of protein per serving. To add a little bit of sweetness, you can have any of these depending upon your preferences and your health needs. Your pure cane sugar, maple syrup, your honey, your agave nectar, or a non-calorie sweetener, your monk fruit. Your monk fruit is an Asian fruit, and this is a blend of monk fruit and anethynol, a sugar alcohol that adds no calories. So let's get started in putting the recipe together. In preparing the vegetables, you rinse them all off, which I've done, and now you cut and peel. Finishing up my kiwi, keep it in large pieces. That's all I have to do. For your kale, I'm just trying to get off the tough stems, just cutting it down. If you have a high power blender, you can leave the stems on, but mine needs them taken off. I've washed the bananas as well, the outside, because once you cut in, you may be exposing the outside, so you do need to wash the outside of your banana. This is a nice big banana, and I take off any of the brown edges. That should be good. And then I will be peeling my ginger. I will not use this whole piece of ginger. I'm only going to use a piece of it. I wish we had smell-o-vision, because this is smelling so good. I will cut this up in some small pieces once I finish this little piece up. Some people will leave on the skin. I always peel it. Some do leave it on. And I'm just going to cut this. Ginger is always woody like this, but it has a little bit of juice to come out of it. Leave it like that, and the blender should be able to do the rest. Okay. So for our smoothie, we'll start with just a bunch of kale. We usually don't measure it out. We just put some in there. And then We'll just put some of our spinach in there, a nice bunch full. To that, we'll just add our strawberries, which is usually, I try to use about 6 strawberries. This is going to make at least 2 to 3 servings. I like my kiwi, 1 whole kiwi, and then some banana. This was kind of a big banana, so I want to make sure I get a nice layer of it in there. And then our ginger. You have to experiment with how you like the ginger, because I'm putting quite a bit of ginger in. You might not want quite that much. Then to that, we'll add in our protein boosters. It calls for, I'm going to put in about 2 tablespoons of your ground almonds, heaping tablespoons though. Two of your walnuts. I think I'm going to add a little bit more walnuts just to make sure I have enough. And then your flax seeds, which adds in omega-3 oils into that and actually adds in extra fiber as well. And the last ingredient then would be our sweetener source. For this one, I'm going to add in the maple syrup and 2 tablespoons. And again, this is a natural sweetener. You can use your non-nutritive one if you want. I think the next one I make, I will use that. And to bring it all together, about a cup of water. Depending upon how thick it is, you may have to add a little bit more water. We'll see if that's going to be enough. Now, to blend. I'm going to stop and just mix it up a little bit. But you see it's turning green already? I'm going to add that little bit more water. Don't want to add too much because you don't want it to be real thin. Here we go. It only takes a little while. But with the nuts and things, you want to make sure it's getting really smooth. And I'm going to bring out the glasses. And you'll see our smoothie. So there you have it, a great way to get those nutrients in when you're running off for a busy day. Nutritious and delicious. So let's get on to our invited guests.
Well. Yvonne, I got to say, you've done it once again. You've done it such that I don't know about the other guests, but my mouth was salivating.
Yeah, that one was a good one. And when we tasted it, it was just enough ginger. It wasn't overpowering, and it was a nice blend. And I had to tell you, you know, my brother Richard, he doesn't usually like to have those smoothies. And when he tasted it, he was like, this is a good blend. It's all there. He said, I can drink that. And he drank the whole glass. So, yeah.
Well, when you think about that, you know, please talk a little bit about, you know, what was in that glass, the nutritional value, because it was just incredible, right? It's off the charts.
I call it your vitamin pill in a glass, because it had some of everything in there. Plus, it had minerals in there from the potassium, from the potassium and magnesium from the nuts and from the banana. And then you had your vitamin C from the strawberries, and kiwi and potassium from the kiwi as well. And remember, potassium is very good for you to get in, especially if you have high blood pressure. The potassium and magnesium helps to control your blood pressure. And then you also had those omega-3s that help with your blood and keeping your cholesterol down, keep your blood flowing. And then you also had your nuts that gives you the fiber. Not only it gives you magnesium, but it gives you also fiber and those healthy oils. And so you're getting proteins, you're getting healthy fats, you're getting an all around nutritional drink by drinking that one drink. The only thing that I always tell people is that you should watch the amount that you have, because some people think they can take a gallon in a day and not think they're getting calories. You are getting calories from it, but you do, a nice glass in the morning and the evening, that's no problem whatsoever.
Well, and it fills you up. And if you could talk a little bit about the glucose, the how your glucose would not fall off like many of the foods that we eat that are highly processed. When we talk about that nutrient dense foods, it maintains your glucose and has that gradual drop off over time, as opposed to suddenly the cliff of that.
Yeah, it really evens out your blood sugar, and it's what they call a low glycemic index. I should start getting into the technical terms, but it just has the type of fiber and mix of food where your blood sugars are not going to spike really, really high. It's going to go up and then gradually come down. And because it has that protein factor, it's not going to just drop quickly. So you're not going to have that hunger, when you have nutrient dense, those empty calorie foods that we talked about, it spikes your blood sugar up and it drops it down quickly.
And then you're hungry again.
Then you're hungry again. Yeah. And so this now it brings it up, and then it gradually brings it down over time. So you're not going to feel hungry for the next 2 to 3 hours. It does have that much of a staying power. So it is like eating a full meal when you have that smoothie in the morning.
And some of those foods that you had mentioned, they're fairly economical. They last a while. You can freeze some of them, and some of them have a strong shelf life. So it's not like you're going to be throwing it away after a couple of days if you don't eat it. And even a brown banana, which not everybody loves brown bananas, it's getting mixed up anyway.
What we usually say do is take your bananas, and then if the ones that you're not going to use right away, cut them up, put them in a baggie, put it in a freezer.
Put it in the freezer.
And you can just take the banana out. You don't have to buy bananas just to have your smoothie. That you can have your banana right there in the freezer. Same thing with some of your strawberries and blueberries and even your ginger. One thing that I did mention in another program about ginger is because you don't need to use that much ginger. They may say it's $8 a pound for ginger. Well, you don't have to buy a pound. You can buy just a little third of a pound, and even that's going to be a lot of ginger for your product. So you may only have to spend $2, but they see that $8 and $6.99 and higher, and that scares people off. You don't have to buy a whole pound.
Just a pound of ginger is a lot of ginger.
Yes. And it can go bad. You can, and if you wanted to buy extra ginger, you cut it up and you put it in the freezer as well, and then just take the pieces out that you need.
Well, Yvonne, thank you again for allowing us into your kitchen, to go back to the kitchen with the nutritious and delicious recipes that you provide to us. And Kelsey will drop the recipes into the chat for everybody who might want those. But Yvonne, enough of us. Let's move on to some community champions, shall we?
Yes, it's time. It's time for our community champions.
Well, I am just pleased to welcome our 2 champions, and I'm going to tell you about Vanessa D. Johnson. Vanessa, Thank you for coming back to our show. A registered nurse for over 15 years with an emphasis on women's health and wellness. She was also a doula birth worker, doula trainer and mentor, certified lactation specialist, a lactivist, a prenatal yoga instructor, and a 200-hour registered yoga teacher. Vanessa is the owner of A Miracle Happened Wellness and Birth Services, LLC. And maybe we'll put that, we'll put the website for Miss Vanessa's birth services into the chat too. A full spectrum birth and wellness organization that provides doula, birth workers support to expecting families, perinatal education, and doula birth worker training and mentoring. Vanessa is also the founder of Birth Workers United Incorporated, a recognized nonprofit 501c3 that strives to close the gap between the emotional and medical models of perinatal care through multidisciplinary practitioner approach and community outreach. Vanessa is also proud to be the mother of three amazing persons aged 25, 14, and 13. Her passions include building community connections, instill a sense of pride and purpose into her children, giving back, and helping expecting families prepare for the arrival of their new additions. Welcome, Vanessa Johnson.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
It is our pleasure. Yvonne, over to you.
And I have the pleasure of introducing Ambrose Wilson Brown. I will start off with a statement. Ambrose believes that everyone should have access to the health services they need when and where they need them without additional pain and suffering. Ambrose Wilson Brown is a community program coordinator at the Medical College of Wisconsin in the Department of Community Outreach and Engagement at the MCW Cancer Center. You can find Ambrose coordinating the activities centered around men's health. His men's health programming goals are focused on reducing cancer disparities in the community. He's also owner and operated, I knew I was going to say that, is it Miss Peebo? Okay, Fitness, a healthy lifestyle company for over 17 years. He has been recognized as Milwaukee's best professional trainer on more than one occasion, providing exercise, nutrition, and mindset services. In the way of COVID-19, the pandemic, Ambrose has also become a highly sought after speaker on topics of mindfulness, mental performance, and social emotional learning. Outside of work, Ambrose enjoys traveling with his wife, Rebecca, biking with his dog, Louie, and a good book and playlist. Welcome, Ambrose. Most of the time, I only knew you as Ambrose, and you know that means a lot. That means you have elevated when someone could say, oh, I know who Ambrose is. So welcome, and I'm glad to have you on the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Good afternoon, everyone.
And Yvonne, I got to tell you that I know Ambrose as Coach Ambrose, and so I get a two-word title for him. But I'm going to start with you, Vanessa, and you've been on the show before, but talk to us a little bit about your journey in health and wellness. How did you get started?
Wow. You know, as most people, that's probably a layered answer. For myself, you know, being raised by a registered dietitian, early on, that foundation was always strong, being aware of, you know, the rainbow, having that rainbow on your plate was always, you know, at our table. And so instilling that early on was crucial to continuing that on throughout my life thus far. And then also, you know, in doing that, having that foundation, it really allowed me to have the autonomy early on in life to make my own health choices. And so at about 12 years old, I decided to become a vegetarian, and having that support from my mother to, figure out a way to make that transition as smooth as possible, still maintaining a positive, nutrition profile. I couldn't have asked for a better, situation. And then also, again, going back to the foundation, seeing my mother growing up, being proactive about not only what was on the table, but physical activity as well. I grew up watching my mother do like Taekwondo, and so having that, again, going back to that example and that foundation really is where it started.
Fantastic. How about for you, Ambrose?
I would say most likely it's probably just being a kid and being active, playing sports. I would say I got really focused on nutrition, exercise in college. I went to play college football and I was very much underweight, which led to being undersized and not as strong as I could be. I started studying nutrition, exercise from that standpoint at probably about 17 years old, which then carried into personal training shortly after college. And after that became professional career path for me is to learn much as I could to share with other people about how to be healthy as possible.
That's fantastic. Yvonne, when you look back at Vanessa, and for those who aren't aware, that this registered dietitian she's taught that Vanessa's talking about is in the other panel. It is Yvonne and Vanessa, our mother-daughter. What was it like for you, Yvonne? I just want to have you to just reflect on what was it like for you to have Vanessa choose. I love that idea of autonomy, to choose to be a vegetarian at 12.
Well, in the very beginning, it was a little shocking because he came home from school and we know what I was cooking that day. I had roast beef cooked, and she said, "I'm not eating that." And she had seen something at school that really kind of got to her about slaughtering animals and different things, and she was through with it. And at first, it was a little challenging because I saw her, taking a look, and if she didn't want to eat it, she would have some chips and some soda and different stuff. And then I thought, okay, dietitian, if there's nothing wrong with a vegetarian diet, I had to just reinforce that in my own mind. And I said, if she wants to be a vegetarian, help her to be a good, healthy vegetarian. And at the time they had my pyramid on like a Cheerios box. And I started with that. And I started really helping her to be able to eat enough in the morning before she went to school, because maybe the lunch wasn't going to be anything that she was committed. And so I picked a high school that actually, and it was Mesmer, that had an a la carte lunchroom. And she thought that was the greatest thing, because then she can pick her foods and be able to have a lunch on a regular basis. And we don't know how sometimes we do not support vegetarian eating within the school system, because, many times they say you eat what we serve you. Well, she was able to have choice. So thinking about how to support her in her conviction for healthy eating. And also my son, he's a meat eater. So I had two different people, but at the same time, as I made healthy, delicious recipes for Vanessa, there's times when he said, you don't have to make different spaghetti for me. I'll eat hers. You don't have to do this. No, I'm fine. And so I really worked at having and making one meal for all of us. And maybe there might have been a time when I made something on the side for him, but for the most part, we were all eating healthy, as vegetarian-like as I could get in for my son. But yeah, it wasn't a challenge after a while. It was just an acceptance.
I love that. The idea that a part of a standard of a family is the family eats together and supports one another.
Yeah. And believe me, some of the tips that I did, Vanessa was growing up, was things that was passed down to me. And now, this idea of having a day for healthy family meals, like September is Healthy Family Meals Week. I'm like, wait a minute, you're supposed to be eating together as a family all the time. But it
Yeah.
became the thing that with people running so many different places, people weren't sitting down at a meal. And I'll tell this story and then I'll stop. At our house, everyone had their own chair at the table to eat dinner. And if somebody, you try to change that mantra, no, she in my chair. So yeah, we sat at the dining room table. We ate dinner together. And that's it shouldn't be a lost art, but I told people the kitchen table started being for junk. It's like a junk table. Clean off the kitchen table and the dining room table and start eating together and sitting there. And then you can talk about the day. You learn so much about each other. Plus, food doesn't get to be a afterthought. Kids eat better when parents are sitting there at the table eating with them. So, it makes we call the food relationships. It really creates a positive food relationship versus a negative food relationship of somebody trying to force me to eat healthy food.
Yeah, there's actually good evidence that suggests that families that eat together simply do better all around. Vanessa, I want to come back and I'll have Ambrose speak into this as well. I love that word autonomy. It's sticking with me. How has autonomy shaped the way you do your professional work around family support?
Yeah, it's, really, really centering active listening, and meeting people where they are. And so knowing that everyone has their own path in life and the choices that they make, again, will, like my mother said, the convictions are strong, whether, it's from what they've been exposed through their family dynamic, what they are exposed through in their workplace, everyone is coming from a different lens, right? And so really utilizing active listening, meeting people where they are, and if there are some holes that that I would see that may be impeding one's ability to have, that healthy eating lifestyle, connecting that community and those resources. And so it's huge. It's what, the nursing practice is about, the doula practice is about, and definitely yoga, going inward, allowing yourself to be the leader of your own path.
I love that. Ambrose, I know that, and I'm so grateful that you're at the medical college now with me. How does that idea of autonomy fit in with your work as someone who's working on community cancer prevention?
Yeah, it's a great way of teeing that question up. As Vanessa said, it's all about giving people the tools and first of all, honoring they already have lived experience, right? People already have tools and resources. But when we come in, it's always about making sure I make space for that, first of all, right? Like, what do you already have that you do well, and building off of that as a foundation. And then to see if there's anywhere that we can synergize where I can be of support. So everything that I'm working on right now is going to be community led, right? So I get to talk with people one-on-ones, small groups, take what they're saying to me, go back, design some stuff, come back and see if they like it. Pilot the program. For example, we just did rock climbing on Monday, linking the fear of heights with the fear of the C word, cancer. And we sat down over a table, had a meal at Turning Tables Milwaukee, and they gave feedback, right? So I'm going to go back and assess and adjust based upon what they said, and then make next program better. But the autonomy, I think, is a strong word I should be using in programming, because end of the day, the goal is for me not to be there. That's always been my goal in my work, is that if I do a good job, I should be no longer needed. I can go find new work to do. So that's the goal here at the Cancer Center as well.
I love that. And I love that word of synergy, community led. And I added in my own notes the idea of choice. And I think that's true not only for those of us that are healthy, but the work that I do around those who are unhoused. We like to give people choice, least restrictive environment. What would you like to do? How can you move forward in this space? And what can I do to support you, not only presently, but over time? And after a while, it turns into this idea of friendship.
Yeah, and I wanted to touch on something that I was thinking when you had talked about, that people would no longer need you. I thought about some of the people that I've helped with their diabetes, learning about their diabetes control. And I was looking at how many sessions did it really take me before they didn't need me anymore. And I looked at it and I said, it only takes about 3 sessions, maybe one really intense at the start, another one to make sure that they've got it, that they're working, if they have questions, and then a third, like small half an hour follow-up just to see where they're at. But the ones that it tickled me, I will hear from them when they want to report how good their hemoglobin A1Cs are doing. And they'll give me a call and say, I just went to the doctor and I just want to let you know my hemoglobin A1Cs is this. That's when I really know they got it. They got it. They know what they're doing and know how to control, but they also know how to live with healthy eating. And I make it where they don't have to look at a sheet of paper. So, you know, in the hospitals, they may give you a diet sheet. And they say, eat this way, don't eat this, do this. And I'm thinking, but people just go to the refrigerator. They don't usually go from a diet sheet. So knowing the healthy foods that you should be eating, because really, any of the diets are just based on creating a healthy eating plan. They're not based on a diet just for heart, a diet just for kidneys, a diet. You're one body, you're full body. So this idea that, you know, I got to follow a diabetic diet. No, you got to follow a healthy eating plan that you control your blood sugar with. And so when I take it out of it being some strange diet thing over there that, you know, I got to either be on it or off of it, and they develop a healthy eating plan that everything is controlled, they like, oh, wow, this really isn't as difficult as I thought. And then there's no diet for the person with diabetes and a diet for the person over here. We all can eat the same food. It's not 2 different diets. And so that's one of the things that when you were saying that, I thought, well, that is just so true. But one thing I really wanted to know, since I have these great champions on here, especially with their busy schedules and all the things that they're doing to help other people, I wanted to see what types of things that have you put into your own healthy eating plan. So Vanessa, maybe you can go and talk about your healthy eating plan, some tips, you know, because we role model around here.
Yeah, absolutely. I like it to keep it simple. Like, that's it. Keep it simple. You know, when you start to have all of these different options, or, you know, there's all these fads that come out all the time,
Right.
and it can be overwhelming. It can get confusing. So I just really like to keep it simple. I know I grew up with the idea of breaking the fast. So breakfast for me is one of the meals that I'm really intentional about, especially with my children, getting them off to a good start. Like, they do not leave my house and go to school before we sit down and eat breakfast at the table. And so keeping it simple, things that are readily accessible, things that are easy even for on the go, and being versatile. So some of the things that are my staples: spinach. I always have spinach in the home. You know, the versatility there, whether it's smoothies, salads, sandwiches, utilizing that for those phytochemicals that I learned about through you, the fiber, all of that, those options. Trail mix, like I have some trail mix right here. Trail mix is always one of my go-tos. I have it at my workshops, I have it on the go, I have it in the car, I have it in my purse. Being a vegetarian, utilizing those, or being intentional about those plant-based options, right? So the nuts and things like that. Yogurt for me is always a go-to for being on the go with the busy schedule. That is something that I can always just grab and go. I don't have to think about it. Same with bananas. That's always there. Peanut butter, again, thinking about being intentional about the plant-based proteins for me is important. So the trail mix, the peanut butter, I keep a thing of peanut butter like in my car, in my bag, at work. And then snacks. Like I'm a foodie. I love my snacks. And so again, being intentional about healthy snacks. And so roasted fava beans, seasoned roasted fava beans are really delicious. There's a brand that I seek out all of the time. Just 1 ounce, you know, label reading. So 1 ounce is like 6 grams of protein, 4 grams of fiber. Understanding what I'm putting in my body with the label reading is important as well. So readily accessible, easy on the go, versatility, and keeping it simple.
Wonderful. And Ambrose, what about you?
Yeah, I think it starts off like you mentioned it earlier, Dr. Greer, with that plan, having a plan. So my plan consists, I just start in the macro, then get micro. As I said earlier on, was underweight. I was so keyed on creatine and whey protein and figuring out the little minute details. Now I kind of start big. So first things first is grocery shopping.
Yeah.
I go at least once a week, if not twice a week. I write down what I'm going to get every single time, because I know when I don't do that, I tend to buy things that aren't on my list.
Right.
And make sure I go and I'm not hungry, because if I go hungry, I'm going to buy snacks. And I do my best to just buy whole food. So that's my main strategy, is making sure that I'm eating as least processed as possible. So that's getting brown rice instead of white rice these days. Sweet potatoes whole versus like French fries, right?
Right.
I'm not quite there yet with the dry beans versus canned beans, but I make sure that I wash my beans off that are canned to get off that sodium. And making sure my meat is intake is, I get protein mainly through my meat still. You know, I try to eat plant-based, but getting whole breast chicken, ground turkey, as opposed to getting fast food or fried chicken, things like that. But when you showed that video of the smoothie, that's actually one of my superpowers, or my tricks, super strategy, I'll call it, is a green smoothie in the morning. So spinach, almond milk, blueberries, green apples, banana, flaxseed, and every once in a while I'll throw in there some nuts, or I'll throw in some pea protein for some extra protein.
That's another one.
Yeah, but that's his point too. I'm a snacker. I'm a foodie, but I'm also a snacker. So my other rule is, if it's not here, I won't eat it. Right. So I can to my wife, but I'll get the little cans of sodas instead of getting the big cans or the 2 liters. And when they're gone, they're gone. I'm not going to go back to the grocery store for another 6 days or so. And then having healthy snacks in the house. So pistachios are a big one for me. I keep dry fruit around because it's sweet, but it's also healthier than having candy. Peanut butter is a must. And I've been adding back in lately eggs, because I've been doing intermittent fasting actually for a few years. But I got my blood work done, and I realized that I need to break the fast earlier in the day. So I've been adding in eggs with my breakfast as of lately.
Yvonne, what stands out for you from what our champions are saying around these habits, which are just fantastic?
Well, what stands out to me is that they have found ways to work nutrition in all throughout the day, starting at, breaking the fast. Even if you're doing intermittent fasting, knowing the types of healthy foods that you want to have on hand and having them readily available, but being intentional about getting them in is definitely, something that I think I hear. Even if you're on the go, it's not you're on the go. It's not that you're not thinking about it. It's just you're thinking about what you can take with you, what is on the go, what is healthy that you can have on the go. And also, they've also analyzed what they like, what you like. And even if it's something that people would say is the lower calorie items or lower nutrient dense item, you've learned a way to help control it by having smaller portions, not having it as often, making sure the temptation is not there. If you'd be tempted. I'm one that always kind of testify and let people know my little thoughts, because I tell people, one of the ones I always tell people, because I know I love it, fried chicken. You're not going to ever get me to not like fried chicken, but I had to learn how to have chicken in other ways. So curry chicken, I eat that. Oh, that's even more of a favorite of mine now than fried chicken. Looking at my chicken stir fry. I love some of these other ways that I have chicken. You don't always have to have the one that you grew up with and your taste buds already know. So it's not like you're going to stop liking things. You just don't have to have them, and you don't have to feel that I'll never have it again. Now I have to have it. No, I don't do that. I just don't cook. You don't see me frying chicken at home no more, because I know if I fry it, I'm gonna eat it. So those are the things that I'm saying, is that when you start looking at your personal plan, it's particular to you. It might not be particular to other people, but it's particular to you. And that's the self-assessment that you need to do. I usually say, first thing is self-assessment and self-reflection, because that way you get to know what do you like. And then what nutritious items can you add? You know, I also keep trail mixes around, but I make my own. And I actually, because I know I like a little bit of chocolate, I put some dark chocolate chips in mine. But I know that dark chocolate, I only can go up to 70%, 60 to 70% cacao in there, fine. 80%, oh no, I can't take it. So you start knowing as you get into it, you know, all dark chocolate isn't the same dark chocolate. So you can find one that it can meet your needs and still get it in. Dark chocolate have healthy phytochemicals in it that is good for your heart. So that you don't have to do away with your chocolate, just switch to the dark and, you know, experiment with the percentage in there. You'll find one that, you know, you can like. But those trail mix, again, because they're loaded with healthy nuts and seeds and things that give you protein and fiber and also healthy oils. You eat some of that and you're not hungry for a long time. It will definitely, but you're feeding your body. And I always say you can eat a lot of junk, but did it feed your body with something? If you can look and say, oh, I had a soda, what'd you get out of it? Not really. But if you can look at it, I drank the almond milk. What did you get out of it? Oh, it had good calcium. It got good calcium. It fed my bones and my muscles. Then you know, okay, that's a good nutrient-dense food. For children, because they need the extra fat and they need the protein, some things don't have the same protein level. So you got to look at the ingredients and see, is this the type of item that has a higher protein? I liked you brought up that pea protein, because they do have a pea protein milk that has as much protein in it as a glass of milk. Soy milk has as much as a glass of milk as a glass of cow's milk. You know, soy has a same kind of profile. Almond milk and some of the other milks, their protein levels is a little bit lower. So that's where you start looking at, okay, which one is better for the children? Yeah, then they need that extra protein. So those are and I always tell everyone they can learn to be a lay nutritionist. I mean, you don't have to go and do like me and went to college just to know. There's so much information. You can learn nutrition and then make sure you include it and see. You're not going to like everything. And that's one of the things that I like about the way I counsel is I try to reach people where they're at, and then also honor that they have their own food tastes. Everybody's not going to like the same thing. And so
there's power in that idea
Yeah.
of autonomy and that self-assessment. And what I'm hearing from all three of you, it doesn't have to be based on guilt, because guilt doesn't get us anywhere in this space. Vanessa, I want you to equate it to what we've been talking about here around nutrition and the things that you promote to some of your birth work, some of the work that you do with families. And how do you tell us what the scene is like right now and meeting families where they are in the birth work around health and wellness?
Yeah, so there's a lot of the birth work right now, specifically in Milwaukee, is concerning, and there's a lot of fear there, especially for the people that I serve. And so when it comes to just healthy lifestyle and kind of bringing that to the table, nutrition does come up definitely during pregnancy, of course, when you're building another little human and trying to sustain yourself. And so, again, that intentionality, having those nutrition conversations, making sure that they have what they need, making sure that they have access to what they need. And then sometimes I even I have private chefs come in, because not only are you focused on the accessibility piece or trying to figure out those deficits as far as what they have, but you're also looking at just the emotional and the capacity physically, whether they're tired or exhausted or, to be able to follow through with making it happen. And so sometimes that additional support, having a chef come out to help prepare meals or do a session on meal prepping and what that could look like is beneficial. And so all of that is included in the work that I do. Back in January, I launched a new initiative with Feeding America called the Nurturing Collaborative, where I wanted to figure out a way to embrace nutrition and introduce it to families, make it sustainable in their lives on a larger scale. And so we launched the Nurturing Collaborative in January, where every month they get a healthy nutrition nourishment box filled with healthy fruits and vegetables, curated by Dr. Greer in collaboration with Feeding America, and utilizing the things, the nutrient-dense foods that are needed for building a life during pregnancy and sustaining yourself and baby beyond birth. And so every month, those nutritious nourishment boxes go out. They also have recipes that are provided to know how to cook those foods. And they've reported back that has been so instrumental in making sure that they have what they need during pregnancy. Some families have even verbalized that they have trouble getting to the grocery store. Ambrose talked about going once a week, but when you have issues with transportation and financial constraints on being able to purchase foods, they are sharing that information and saying that these nourishment boxes are crucial to being able to sustain themselves. And so it's definitely a conversation. It's a must-have conversation, especially with focusing on the perinatal spectrum and what that looks like to stay healthy and build a life.
That's fantastic. Ambrose, a similar type of question, but tell us what the scene is like around preventing cancer and how you're working with men who do have cancer. It's a tough population, right? The idea of reaching men who are trying to be either wage earners or in retirement, and especially the Black community, right? Walk us through what you're doing and how this work is so important around health and wellness.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I stumbled onto this work 3 years ago. I was over at Sam's Place, the old location over on Wisconsin Avenue, and I saw a flyer of a fitness logo. And I read the back, and there was a program called Men Moving Forward. And at that time, I was working in education with children and families. I said, hey, I'm a health coach. I know some people. If I can, share information, let me know. And that became the program Men Moving Forward that now I consult for still, which led me to the medical college and the cancer center. So you're right, Dr. Nelson, when you say working with Black men who have prostate cancer is challenging, because as men, as Black men, and they're older Black men who have survived prostate cancer. But what I'm learning and becoming so inspired by is the fact that when they have the information and they have access to professionals, they take it. They take the information. And right now, 3 years in, we're moving forward now to the COE, department I work for now, and we're doing something called health griots, where these men want to tell their stories to empower other people, other men, but other people, about how to prevent cancer, how to treat cancer, and how to live a full life after cancer. So I think what that includes is giving them something that is led by them, right? The groups that come together, it's a bunch of men who are very similar. They see that right away. They all have similar stories, but they also have differences as well. And they share that back and forth. As Vanessa knows, and Dr. Greer, I'm sure knows, having food at these sessions is important. And community, having food is an easy way for us to slip in some knowledge, right? So we had, instead of having fried chicken, we had smoked chicken over at Turning Tables. I suggested quinoa to them, and they were kind of surprised by that. Black men eat quinoa, so they had quinoa first and they had rice. And believe it or not, the quinoa went first, because these guys are
wonderful
options. And then we had greens, right? So we kept it culturally appropriate. We had greens. So I think having food is important. I think the main thing is they want to have fun, engaging activity, and they want to be able to share. They want to be able to talk from their experience, but they're really open to hearing from professionals and people that have knowledge that they're seeking: nutrition, exercise, mental health as well.
Yvonne, when I hear these two wonderful champions talk, I can't think of, there's just two things that I want you to react to. The idea of building trust and being vulnerable. How important is that in the work that you do and what you think that when you hear these champions talk?
Well, it's definitely, key because, you know, sometimes people feel that, if they don't have trust and you tell them and they tell you their stories, that you're not gonna care, you're not gonna, honor their struggle, because many people have had struggles that has kept them in the same space that they have, the same functioning and things. And to switch and change that, and to think that you can just say, oh, you should just change the whole way that you're eating and eat differently, and yet they still got to go back to the struggles and they don't know how to be able to add those things in. That's a whole lot different. But if they know and feel that you can understand, they will tell you, they will tell you what they really do and how they really get by and how they really function and what they really like. And then you can help them to come up with a plan for themselves that takes them to a healthier way of eating, a healthier way of functioning. But if they don't trust you, it's almost like they're almost like, why waste my breath? Because you're not going to understand no way, and they don't want to get scolded. I had one client tell me, he said he doesn't go to the doctor because he doesn't want to hear bad news. He said, all they're going to do is tell you bad news. They're not going to tell you nothing good. And I never thought about it like that, because, but they kind of felt like, they don't get hope. And many times when they have trusting people, they get hope from those people. And then they are able to maybe rise above and figure out, ways that they can actually do something that's going to improve their situation. But it's very, like I said, but once you have that trust, you do, you can really help people to move. And then once, like I said, once they get it, they'll just say, yeah, I'm doing good. I've been eating this. I've been doing that. They'll just tell you what they're doing, and they'll feel good and proud about it too. But at first it's hard.
I love that.
Really
I love that. One of the sayings that I try to ascribe to is everybody's dealing with something that you know nothing about. And so when you honor the struggle and you honor what people might be going through, especially not only with health, but in much of the community that we care about, is the struggle with keeping the lights on or making sure the kids come home at the end of the day. These are realities in addition to trying to be health and well. Vanessa, I know this idea of trust is not a foreign concept to you, but what are some of the things that you tell people or that you do to build trust with people that they can have a healthy, beautiful baby at the end of the process?
Yeah, so, in order to receive, you have to give, right? And so being transparent, sharing my own story, sharing my own struggles, sitting, facilitating or hosting something, if people view you as the expert, that can be intimidating for some people. So to bring that down a notch, letting folks know that, hey, I've been there, I understand, I can feel you, I see you, is very important. So sharing myself, sharing my story, I was a young mom, and trying to find spaces that supported me in that journey, was crucial. And so I share that story. I share, not knowing the answers, relying on my mother for support and insight and wisdom, and, letting people know that, yeah, I'm up here facilitating, but listen, it's been a journey, and there were bumps in the road, and, here we are, and we can share that space and opening up the space to allow conversations to flow, where, I have families who come in who have 9 children, right? I am not the expert when I have a mother with 9 children, in that space. And so again, allowing the conversations to flow, that shared wisdom to be present, and not sit there like I'm just the expert facilitating. No, I'm holding space, and we're here to learn from one another. So I think that definitely has been helpful with trying to build trust.
I love that, holding space. Ambrose, when you hold space with someone with cancer, which we know there's really no certainty in the space, how do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, coming into that space of the programming, Vanessa said it. I'm not the expert on your lived experience. I'm an expert in exercise and nutrition. So really was sitting in a circle, listening, going. I think what you said earlier, I call it challenge by choice, right? So you get to decide how much you want to do. I'm gonna give you a framework for exercise. We're gonna have an hour for discussion with nutrition. I'll share information, but I very much love to learn from my people as much as I teach. I think that's really helpful. And then getting them to what they need as a resource, right? So we bring in doctors from MCW. We bring in, actually, some of them had actually graduated. One of the men early on in his journey, his daughter is a vegetarian or vegan, I believe, and shared some things with him. And now he actually comes back and teaches the class on how to make healthy recipes, right? So that's that idea of us not eat it anymore. So now he comes and does that work for us instead. Yeah, so elevating, folks inside the group as champions, I think is something that's really helpful, because now I can just let them talk and they bring me into the fold, right? Once I'm approved by them, new people that come in, I kind of get that checklist a little bit faster.
Right, right. Well, I just think those tips that you have said, and some of the way that you honor people and let them, be open enough to tell their stories, and to you not be the authority, even though you know a lot of stuff, being humble enough not to put that on people and let them know that we're all in this together. I think that is so valuable. So what we want to do before we, start winding down is to really, if people are going to really get into their health plan and really look at how to rejuvenate it and make sure that they are starting it on a good foundation, what tips can you give people as they get started with their healthy eating plan and their healthy fitness plans? You want to start, Vanessa?
So I guess I go back to the keep it simple, like start light. You don't have to be bombarded with all of the things, start light, maybe one new goal at a time, not 50 new goals at a time, and just being realistic, honoring where you are, honoring, what you need, and looking at all the different factors for your own family dynamic or your personal life experience. And so I would just say start light, and, you don't have to do it alone. Like, we're greater together, right? And so seek advice, reach out to somebody that you trust, and, get additional insight, but start light, be realistic, and utilize your resources, reach out.
And Ambrose, what kind of tips would you like to give, some words of wisdom?
Yeah, I think for me, when I started coaching nutrition, I didn't realize how strong cultural connections were. And the really quick stories, I had a woman that was doing bodybuilding, and she was doing really, really well, getting close to the performance date. It was my job to help her tweak her food intake. And the only thing I could nitpick was that she ate a lot of cheese. And I've never been cursed out by a client as bad up to as I did by her. And it was okay. And I said, hey, look, like, you're gonna do well because you're right there. Again, I was just tweaking your plan. And I'm not sure if it was 6 months later, a year later, she sent me back a message and said, hey, this is either a testimonial or an apology. But what I realized is that my connection to dairy is my family is dairy farmers. And my family is also, for the most part, obese. So me going through this weight loss journey, it hit her twofold, right? One, she now looks completely different in her family. And then two, I was taking away the one connection that she had to her family, which was dairy. So with that said, I think before hopping into any plan, I think the assessment piece is really critical, and getting someone to help you with that, right? So I always tell people, a trainer, coach, nutritionist, dietitian, the first one's probably free. And I use that as a tripwire with people. They ask me for help on a Facebook post or Instagram. I say, hey, here's my link, set up a consultation. And most folks don't ever take that offer. And that's okay. But when you're ready, a professional is probably going to help you out for free because they're so used to it. And it's going to be an assessment. That assessment will be super valuable to make the next step. So I would say, one, be aware of your own limiting factors, which can be cultural, can be financial. And then I like to ask the question, where do you focus on? General health, body composition, or performance? Because when I was in college, I didn't eat nutrient-dense food. I ate calorie-rich foods because I had to get, right? And I think for the most part, people are trying to manage their weight with their nutrition. So I ask the question, if you're successful with me, would you rather do something really quickly that does not last long, or something that's going to go slowly, but most likely to last? And well over 80% of people pick the fast results that aren't sustainable. And I get to now decide, to Mr. Nelson's point, Dr. Nelson's point is, do I get to decide to work with that person? Because I know what's going to happen after the wedding, after the vacation, after the summertime. You might be in a worse off spot than you were before. So as I get older, I'm realizing that those quick weight loss fixes, those 8-week programs, I don't do them anymore myself. So just asking those, I think those assessment questions are really important to get people in the right frame of mind for whatever they're going to decide to do with their plan for nutrition.
It's a great point. And I we want to remind people on this show that there are really, you can make quick changes, but the quick changes, we want them to be lasting changes. And the trajectory of health is not something that you do as a child or as a young adult, but as Yvonne has taught us, that you can change your nutrition throughout your lifetime with maximal impact over that lifetime, that life course mentality. And I think it's true for families that are starting out, Vanessa, but it's also true for men in their 70s that might have prostate cancer. And so we look at this as there's plenty of support out there, but you got to be ready for it. Yvonne, you know what, we could talk all afternoon, and I just love our champions.
And that's why I said you can get prepared, but it's just a conversation. So let's just come in and talk, because we know what we're doing, but we also have that passion and that sensitivity that sometimes some professionals, if they're, because like every 10 minutes, and sometimes, you go to an office and everything is going so fast and so fast and so fast, you don't get that. And sometimes people need that. And so I know when I call you community champion, it's for a reason, because you've already thought about it. You've already gotten, and you already kind of know, and it's a pleasure for me to hear community champions talk and share, because it's almost like, okay, these are the empowering people. These are the people that people can feel good about and relax with, and that, they can help. And I try to say I'm one of those people, and so it does. When somebody said, what makes you smile? When I hear somebody that I did a program, and this happened recently, that I did a program way back when I was in my 20s with it was called food for, anyway, I don't know what they call it, food for the soul. It was something like that. But anyway, I did food demonstration on my stir-fry cabbage. Lady came up with me, you're that dietitian lady, aren't you? She said, I'm still cooking my cabbage the way you told me to cook that cabbage. Yeah, you helped me. And I was like, oh my God, she remembers me because of learning how to cook stir-fry cabbage. And I said, well, ain't that something? That just kind of beamed me. The idea, does what I do make a difference? Oh yeah, it made a difference for that person. And so I have a few takeaways that I wrote down. Okay, so some of the takeaways came that said, keep it simple. Make sure that you're not trying to get the most exotic thing in the world, but just keep it simple and add things in. Focus on whole foods versus processed foods. Have healthy snacks available, and which is maybe a trail mix. You can add some things back in to make your meal healthy, like you've added some extra eggs back in. But you want to go with honoring where the person is at. Start light, and you don't have to do it alone. You can have other people help and resources, but Be aware of your own issues. Self-assessment is so key, and getting into the right mindset for healthy living is important. But culture and what's been in your life may be something that is holding you back or something that you can key on. There's no benefit. I shouldn't say it's no benefit, because some people say it's some benefit in quick weight loss, but quick weight loss is not usually sustainable. So you need to get into the right mindset for creating a healthy eating plan for a lifetime. Those are my takeaways.
That is just phenomenal. Yvonne, I have one last question for you. Did we get it in today?
We got it in. We got it in, and we got it in.
We
and we're
got
gonna
it
keep
in.
Yes,
I
we
love
did.
that. Vanessa, Ambrose, this has been a joy for me, and I can speak for Yvonne on this one, for her too. We just love your enthusiasm, your energy, and your ability to support people wherever they are. Thank you for joining us, and most importantly, thank you for the work that you do in our community.
Thank you.
Dr. Greer?
Yes.
I'm going to give you the last word, because you know what? This is our last show of the season, and it's a wrap. Over to you.
Yes, this is the last show of the season and the last show in our series. Our grant is ending, and I believe that over these last 3 years, we have met the challenge of making sure that we're supporting community, giving people a voice and a place to be able to share, showcasing amazing champions in our community. And like I said, I look forward to going back. I take notes on what people are saying, but it has been a joy and a pleasure. You know, when you have a vision and then you see your vision come to life, there is no greater pleasure than that. But I always say that this is only one step. I'm going to still be here. We're still going to be doing this work, and you'll see me in the community. And so, you know, and as African tradition says, there is no goodbye. It's see you later.
This is the Days of Learning Back to the Kitchen podcast, and this has been David and Dr. Yvonne Greer. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you in the community.
Thank you. Thank you.